The silence in the council chamber was heavy. Captain Yuna Kim stood in the observation deck, watching as the vote numbers appeared on the massive holographic display. Her hands gripped the metal railing until her knuckles turned white. The vote was final, 723 to 124. Earth had lost. Below her, Ambassador Daeho Park stood alone on the speaker's platform. The platform floated in the center of the enormous chamber, surrounded by hundreds of alien delegates from across the galaxy. Some looked like crystals that walked and talked. Others were covered in scales or fur. Some didn't even have solid bodies. But they all agreed on one thing. Humanity could not be trusted with the ancient gates. Daeho's voice was steady, even though Yuna knew he must be feeling crushed inside. Honored council members, I ask you to reconsider. Humanity has proven itself a valuable member of this council. We have shared our knowledge. We have followed your laws. All we ask is the chance to... Enough. The voice cut through the chamber like a blade of ice. Prime Arbitrator Velthun's crystalline body pulsed with cold blue light. The ancient being had lived for thousands of years and ruled the council for most of that time. Your species has existed for barely a moment in galactic time. These quantum gates are older than your sun. The council has decided. Earth's solar system will be placed under quarantine. You will surrender all research on the gates. This is not negotiable. Yuna watched as Daeho's shoulders slumped slightly. Just for a second. Then he straightened again. When does the quarantine begin? In 72 hours, a council fleet will arrive at your system. No ship will enter or leave Earth's space until we decide your species has matured enough to be trusted. Velthun's tone made it clear that might never happen. You may return to your home world now. Gather your people. Prepare them for isolation. The transmission ended. The council delegates began to file out, their conversations filling the chamber with dozens of different languages. None of them looked at the human ambassador. To them, Earth was already forgotten. Yuna left the observation deck and met Daeho at the docking bay. His face was calm, but she knew him well enough to see the anger burning behind his eyes. They planned this from the beginning, Daeho said quietly as they walked toward their ship. They never intended to let us keep the gate technology. They just wanted to see what we knew. Did you send the signal? Yuna asked. Daeho nodded. Earth knows. Protocol Omega is active. Their ship, the Dauntless, was small compared to the massive council vessels docked nearby. But it was fast and well-armed. More importantly, it was one of the last human ships that would be allowed to leave council space. As they flew away from the council station, Yuna's communication panel lit up. Dr. Yoonji Choi's face appeared on the screen. The scientist looked tired but excited. Captain, I hope you're on your way back. We don't have much time. We're coming. What's the situation? The defense fleet is ready. Admiral Kang wants to meet with you as soon as you arrive. Yoonji paused, then smiled. And I have something to show you. Something about the gates that the council doesn't know. Yuna felt a spark of hope. How long until we reach Earth? 30 hours at maximum speed, her pilot reported. Make it 25, Yuna ordered. I don't care if you burn out the engines. The flight back to Earth felt longer than it should have. Yuna spent most of it reviewing reports from the Defense Command. What she read made her angry and proud at the same time. For the past 10 years, while humanity smiled and played nice with the Council, they had been preparing for exactly this moment. The Shadow Armada. 200 warships built in secret, hidden in asteroid fields and behind planets. Ships that used technology the Council didn't know humans had. Weapons that didn't appear in any database. Earth had learned an important lesson during their first contact with aliens 15 years ago. Never show all your cards. When the Dauntless finally entered Earth's orbit, Yuna saw something beautiful. The planet below looked peaceful, blue and green, and wrapped in white clouds. But in orbit, a fleet was gathering. Sleek warships with dark hulls that seemed to drink in the starlight. Each one was ready for battle. Admiral Ji-hoon Kang's face appeared on her screen. The old warrior had cybernetic implants covering half his face, souvenirs from the First Contact War. Captain Kim, welcome home. Report to the command center immediately. We have work to do. An hour later, Yuna stood in a conference room deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. Around the table sat the most important people in Earth's military and government. Admiral Kang at the head, Agent Sora Nam from Intelligence, Director Bowman An from the Science Council, and Dr. Yoonji Choi, who looked like she hadn't slept in days. Show them, Admiral Kang said to Yoonji. The scientist activated a holographic display. It showed one of the ancient quantum gates, spinning slowly in 3 dimensions. When I first discovered the gate network, I reported my findings to the council, but I left something out. Something important. The hologram changed, showing layers of energy patterns that Yuna didn't understand. The gates aren't just for transportation. They're nodes in a weapon system, a network that can manipulate space and time itself. Chief Engineer Hyunwoo Lee, a young genius who rarely spoke, whistled softly. You can trap fleets, change distances, make weapons miss their targets, or destroy stars, Yoonji added. The civilization that built these gates didn't lose a war. They evolved beyond the need for physical form. They left the gates as a test. A test we passed, Agent Sora said, by figuring out their true purpose. Yuna understood immediately, and the council doesn't know this. They think the gates are just doors between stars, Yoonji confirmed. They've been using them for thousands of years and never realized what they really are. How long until you can activate them? Admiral Kang asked. They're already active. I've been building new gates around our solar system for 6 months. Smaller ones based on the ancient design. When the council fleet arrives, they'll find themselves in a very different kind of fight than they expect. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Yuna spoke. They're going to attack, aren't they? This won't just be a quarantine. Our intelligence suggests the council will make an example of us, Agent Sora said. They can't allow a young species to defy them. It would give other species ideas. Director Bowman leaned forward. So what do we do? Admiral Kang's smile was hard and cold. We teach the council a lesson they should have learned a long time ago. Never underestimate humanity. They voted against us, Ambassador Daeho said quietly. They thought we were children who needed to be controlled. They thought we would just accept their decision and submit. Yuna Kim looked around the table at these people who had prepared for this moment. Scientists and soldiers and spies who had worked in secret for years. Who had built weapons and ships and plans because they knew this day would come. They made a mistake, she said. Admiral Kang nodded. Their final mistake. In 48 hours, the council fleet arrives. Let's make sure they remember what happens when they try to cage humanity. Outside in Earth's orbit, the Shadow Armada waited. Silent and deadly, ready to show the galaxy that humanity would never surrender its freedom. Not to the council, not to anyone. The countdown had begun. 48 hours felt like both too much time and not enough. Ambassador Daeho Park stood before the council one last time. He knew this would be his final chance to speak to them as a free human. After today, Earth would either stand independent or fall under council control. Honored members, Daeho began, his voice carrying across the vast chamber. Humanity requests a 30-day extension to comply with your decree. We need time to organize, to prepare our people for... Denied. War Marshal Krovik stood from his seat. The massive warrior belonged to a species that resembled armored bears. His voice was like grinding stones. Your kind has had enough time. The quarantine fleet departs within the hour. We will arrive at your system in 46 hours. Prepare for our arrival. Daeho bowed slightly, a gesture of respect that fooled no one. As he bowed, his left hand moved in a specific pattern. A signal. Back on Earth, encrypted receivers picked up the message from hidden cameras. The trap was ready. Captain Yuna Kim watched the broadcast from the command center beneath the Pacific Ocean. Around her, dozens of officers and scientists monitored screens and worked at stations. The room hummed with quiet energy. He gave the signal. Agent Sora Nam said from beside her. The council is moving exactly as we predicted. What about our people in council territory? Yuna asked. The civilians, the traitors? All evacuated 3 days ago, Sora confirmed. We made it look natural. Family emergencies, business opportunities elsewhere. The council didn't notice. Admiral Jihoon Kang entered the room, his cybernetic eye glowing softly in the dim light. All fleet commanders are ready. Our ships are in position. Yuna pulled up a holographic map of the solar system. Red dots showed where human ships waited, hidden behind planets and inside asteroid fields. Blue dots marked the positions of Dr. Yunji's new gates. The whole system was a web of defensive positions. They think they're coming to arrest children, Admiral Kang said. They're about to learn that these children have teeth. On the other side of the galaxy, the Council's quarantine fleet gathered. 500 warships from a dozen different species. It was a massive show of force designed to intimidate. War Marshal Krovik stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Hammer of Justice, watching as the fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace. Is all this really necessary? One of his officers asked. It's just Earth, one small species. Krovik's laugh was harsh. That's what everyone thinks. That's why we need to do this. If we let humans defy us, others will try. We crush them now completely so no one else gets ideas. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, beginning their journey to Earth. They expected an easy victory, a show of force, some disabled human ships, maybe a few shots fired at empty military bases. Then occupation and control. Simple. They were very wrong. Back on Earth, Dr. Eunji Choi worked in her laboratory deep beneath the ocean. Around her, holographic displays showed complex mathematical equations and energy patterns. Chief Engineer Hyunwoo Lee sat at a nearby console, his fingers moving rapidly across the controls. How's the calibration? Eunji asked without looking up from her work. Perfect. All 15 gates are synchronized. When the Council fleet arrives, we can activate the network in less than 3 seconds. Hyunwoo paused. Are you sure this will work? Eunji finally looked at him. Her eyes were tired but determined. The mathematics are sound. The gates will create overlapping fields of altered space-time. Inside those fields, the laws of physics will bend in our favor. And if you're wrong, then we'll all die and the Council will turn Earth into a prison planet. Eunji smiled grimly. So I better not be wrong. The hours crawled by. Earth's defense forces made final preparations. Weapons were charged. Shields were tested. Pilots sat in their cockpits waiting. The Shadow Armada remained hidden, ships powered down to minimal signatures. Agent Sora Nam sat in her office, monitoring reports from her spy network across the galaxy. Information flowed in from dozens of sources. The Council fleet was on schedule. No surprises. No unexpected ships joining them. Perfect. But Sora noticed something else in the intelligence reports. Small things. 3 minor species that had recently been denied technology by the Council. 5 species with trade disputes. 8 species that had been overruled in Council votes. The galaxy wasn't as united as the Council believed. She filed that information away. It might be useful soon. The Council fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system right on schedule. War Marshal Krovik looked at his tactical display and felt satisfaction. The human fleet was visible on sensors. 200 ships arranged in a defensive formation around Earth. Only 200 ships, his tactical officer reported. Their weapons are charging, but their shield systems appear to be standard Council-level technology. Krovik nodded. This would be even easier than he thought. All ships advance in formation. Target their weapons and engines. I want them disabled but intact. We'll need those ships for scrap once we occupy their system. The Council fleet moved forward like a vast mechanical beast. 500 ships in perfect formation, weapons ready, shields at maximum. They had fought this way for thousands of years. It always worked. Admiral Jihoon Kang watched the approaching fleet on his displays. His flagship, the Soul's Vengeance, waited with the rest of the Shadow Armada behind Earth's moon. Around him, his bridge crew worked silently, professionals doing their jobs. Enemy fleet entering optimal range in 30 seconds. Tactical Officer Minji Kwan reported. Jihoon allowed himself a small smile. All ships execute Protocol Typhoon on my mark. Dr. Choi, prepare to activate the gate network. In her laboratory, Yunji's hand hovered over the activation control. Ready. The Council fleet continued its advance. War Marshal Krovik was about to give the order to fire when something changed on his sensors. Sir, I'm detecting energy spikes throughout the system, multiple points surrounding our formation. What kind of energy spikes? Unknown signature. It's not matching any known weapon system. It's the gates activated, space itself changed. The area around the Council fleet suddenly rippled like water. Distance became meaningless. Time flowed differently. The ships that had been in perfect formation found themselves scattered across impossible angles. All human ships, attack now. Admiral Kang's voice rang out across the communications channels. The Shadow Armada dropped their stealth systems and appeared as if from nowhere. 200 human ships, weapons blazing, moving through the altered space like they owned it. A Council destroyer fired its main cannon at a human frigate. The shot curved away at an impossible angle and struck one of the Council's own cruisers. The captain of the destroyer stared in disbelief. Captain Yuna Kim led a strike wing of 12 ships through the chaos. In the altered space created by the gates, her ships could move in ways that seemed to break physics. They appeared behind Council ships, fired, and vanished before return fire could reach them. "This is impossible," War Marshal Krovic roared. "What are they doing?" His science officer worked frantically at his station. "They've created a localized space-time distortion field. They're manipulating the fundamental structure of reality itself." Captain Tae-Woo Shin, commanding a squadron of Earth's newest fighters, grinned as he watched a Council battleship fire at empty space. The ship's weapons couldn't compensate for the distorted physics. "Welcome to our playground," he said over the open channel. "Hope you like it." The battle was chaos for the Council and a carefully choreographed dance for humanity. Every shot the Council fired missed or curved away. Every human torpedo found its target. In the altered physics of the Gate Network, humanity held every advantage. 15 minutes. That's how long it took, 15 minutes to disable or destroy 200 Council ships. Not a single human vessel was lost. War Marshal Krovic's flagship was crippled, drifting in space with no engines and no weapons. His pride was wounded worse than his ship. Around him, his fleet was in ruins. This wasn't supposed to happen. The Council was invincible. They had been the dominant power in the galaxy for thousands of years. "Retreat," he said quietly. "Sir?" "Retreat. All ships, emergency hyperspace jump. Get us out of here." The surviving Council ships, those that still had working engines, fled. They jumped to hyperspace in complete disarray, abandoning damaged vessels and wounded pride. Admiral Ji-hoon Kang watched them go. "Ceasefire. Let them run. Let them tell everyone what happened here." The battle was over. Earth had won. Ambassador Daeho Park appeared on every major broadcast channel across the galaxy. His face was calm, but his words were steel. "People of the galaxy, humanity withdraws from the Council effective immediately. We recognize no quarantine. We accept no limitations. We will share the gate technology with any species that wishes to join us as equals. Not subjects. Not subordinates, equals. The Council ruled against Earth. They thought we were weak. They learned better. Anyone else who wants to test us is welcome to try." The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, on 1,000 worlds, beings of every species watched and wondered. The Council's age of absolute power was over. A new era had begun, and it started with a single word that humanity spoke to the Council: no. The galaxy changed overnight. News of humanity's victory spread like fire across the stars. On the Council's home station, Prime Arbitrator Velthun stood before the assembled delegates and felt something the ancient being had never experienced before. Fear. "This is a disaster," one delegate said. The small creature's voice shook. "If humans can defeat our fleet, what's to stop them from attacking us?" "Silence," Velthun commanded. But the crystalline being's voice lacked its usual force. "We must respond with strength. War Marshal Krovic, you will assemble another fleet, a larger one. We will show humanity the price of defiance." But War Marshal Krovic, still recovering from his wounds, shook his massive head. "With what ships?" "We lost 200 vessels. More importantly, we lost something else. We lost the galaxy's belief that we're invincible." He was right. Across the galaxy, 17 Council member species abstained from the vote to retaliate against Earth. They didn't vote against it. They simply refused to participate. It was the first crack in the Council's authority in 5,000 years. On Earth, the celebration was brief. Captain Yuna Kim knew that winning one battle didn't mean winning the war. She stood in the command center, studying reports from Agent Sora Nam's intelligence network. 12 species have made unofficial contact, Sora reported. They want to know more about the Free Systems Alliance that Ambassador Daeho mentioned in his broadcast. "Are they serious or just curious?" Yuna asked. "6 are serious. The others are testing the waters, seeing if we're going to survive the Council's response." Sora pulled up a star map. The serious ones are all species that the Council has kept under tight control. Limited technology, heavy trade restrictions. They've been waiting for someone to challenge the Council. Admiral Jihoon Kang entered the room, looking more tired than Yuna had ever seen him. Director Bowman wants to meet. Something about expanding the gate network. The meeting took place in Dr. Yoonji Choi's laboratory. The scientist had barely slept since the battle, working on improvements to the gate system. Chief Engineer Hyunwoo Lee sat beside her, equally exhausted but excited. "We can do more," Yoonji explained, showing them holographic projections. "Right now we have gates around Earth, but we can build them anywhere. We can create a network that spans the galaxy, completely independent of the Council's infrastructure." Director Bowman nodded. "We've already started. We're sending construction teams to allied systems. Every gate we build makes the network stronger and makes the Council less relevant." "How long until the network is complete?" Admiral Kang asked. "For a basic network covering our allied systems? 3 months. For something that rivals the Council's? 2 years." Yuna understood the implications. "We're not just defending Earth anymore. We're building an alternative to the entire Council system." "Exactly," Director Bowman said. "We're offering species a choice. Stay with the Council and accept their rules, or join the Alliance and be treated as equals." Captain Taewoo Shin was already putting that plan into action. His ship, the Harmony, dropped out of hyperspace above the planet Kelzara. The Kelzaran people had been part of the Council for 800 years, but they had always been treated as second-class members. The Kelzaran Prime Minister met with Taewoo in the capital city. The old leader looked nervous, constantly checking to make sure they weren't being observed. "What you're offering sounds wonderful," the Prime Minister said carefully. "But the Council will retaliate. Against us, not just you. My people could suffer." Taewoo smiled gently. "That's why we're not just offering technology. We're offering protection. Join the Alliance and you get access to gate technology, trade agreements, and if the Council threatens you, the entire Alliance responds. One species couldn't stand against the Council alone. But 10 species together? 20, 50? The Council becomes irrelevant." The Prime Minister was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "When do we begin?" Within a week, 6 species officially joined the Free Systems Alliance. The Council tried to respond with economic sanctions, but it didn't work. The new gate network allowed allied species to trade directly with each other, bypassing Council-controlled routes. But the Council wasn't finished. They had other methods. Agent Sora Nam's network detected the assassination plot 3 days before it was supposed to happen. Council Black Operations teams were being sent to kill key human leaders. The targets included Ambassador Daeho Park, who was still at the Council station, and Dr. Yoonji Choi. "We need to evacuate Daeho immediately," Yuna said. "No." Sora's face was hard. "If we evacuate him, the Council knows we detected their plot. We lose the advantage. Better to use him as bait." Yuna didn't like it, but she understood. "What about Dr. Choi?" "We move her to a secure location. The Council doesn't know we know about the plot. We use that." Captain Yuna Kim personally led the team to protect Ambassador Daeho. They arrived at the Council station pretending to be a normal diplomatic transport. Inside, Yuna and 5 of her best soldiers wore civilian clothes and carried concealed weapons. The attack came in a marketplace near the diplomatic quarters. 6 Council assassins, professionals who had killed for the Council for decades. They used weapons that didn't make noise, poison that worked in seconds. But Agent Sora had given Yuna exact details about the attack. When the first assassin moved, Yuna was ready. The fight was brutal and fast. Yuna's team was outnumbered but prepared. Pilot Lieutenant Jiwon Ha, one of Earth's best combat pilots who also excelled in hand-to-hand combat, engaged 2 assassins at once. An assassin's blade caught Jiwon in the side. She grabbed the assassin's arm, broke it, and threw him into a wall. But the poison on the blade was already working. She collapsed, still smiling. "Tell the Council," Jiwon said, blood on her lips. "They just made a martyr." Yuna killed the last assassin and held Jiwon as she died. Around them, the marketplace was in chaos. Dozens of aliens from various species had witnessed the attack. They had seen Council assassins trying to kill a human ambassador. Agent Sora made sure the recordings went viral. Within hours, every news network in the galaxy was showing the footage. The Council had tried to assassinate a diplomat, in public, breaking their own laws. The backlash was immediate. 23 species filed formal protests. 8 more species contacted the Alliance about membership. The Council's carefully maintained image as righteous guardians of order was shattered. Prime Arbitrator Typhoon tried to control the damage, claiming the assassins were rogues acting without orders. No one believed it, but Typhoon had one more card to play. The crystalline being contacted the 8 ancient species, civilizations so old and powerful, they rarely involve themselves in council affairs. The humans have unlocked dangerous technology, Typhoon argued before the Ancient One of the Nexus, a being of pure energy that had existed for millions of years. They're going to destabilize the entire galaxy. We need your help to stop them. The Ancient One was silent for a long time. When it finally spoke, its voice was like distant thunder. You fear them because they remind you of what you once were. Young, ambitious, unwilling to bow. They're dangerous. No, they're free. There is a difference. The Ancient One's energy form pulsed. We will not help you cage a species simply because they refuse to submit to your authority. Humanity's fate is their own to forge. Typhoon left the meeting knowing the Council was truly alone in this conflict. On Earth, Ambassador Deho Park gave another speech. This one broadcast from the Alliance headquarters. Behind him stood representatives from 23 species, all standing together. The Council tried to kill me, Deho said simply. They failed. But in trying, they showed the galaxy who they really are. Not guardians of peace, not protectors of order. Just old powers afraid of change. The Free Systems Alliance offers a different path. Every species has an equal voice. Every species has access to the same technology. Every species is protected. We're not asking you to fight the Council. We're asking you to join us in building something better. By the end of the week, 40 species had formally applied to join the Alliance. The Council's membership dropped for the first time in recorded history. In her laboratory, Dr. Yunji Choi looked at a galaxy map showing the expanding gate network. Green lights marked Alliance gates. Red lights marked Council gates. The green was spreading. We're not just fighting them, she said to Chief Engineer Hyunwoo Lee. We're replacing them, making them obsolete, Hyunwoo nodded. How long before the Council realizes that force won't work? That they've already lost? They already know, Yunji said quietly. That's what makes them dangerous. A wounded predator is the most violent, she was right. In the Council chambers, War Marshal Krovik was assembling the largest military fleet in Council history. 3,000 warships from 40 different species, nearly 80% of the Council's entire military. This time, they weren't coming to quarantine. They were coming to conquer, and they were coming for Earth. The warning came from Agent Sora Nam's spy network, 3 weeks before the fleet was ready. 3,000 Council warships, the largest military force assembled in living memory, all heading for Earth. Captain Yuna Kim stood in the war room staring at the display showing the Council's forces. Around her, the Alliance leadership had gathered. Admiral Jihoon Kang, Ambassador Deho Park, Dr. Yunji Choi, Strategic Commander Hana Song, and representatives from 20 allied species. They're not coming to talk this time, Admiral Kang said. This is an extermination fleet. Can we win? Asked the Kelzaran ambassador, his voice shaking slightly. No. Strategic Commander Hana Song, a tactical genius who had earned her rank at age 28, spoke bluntly. Not in a straight fight. We have 800 human ships now. The Alliance adds another 400 vessels, 1,200 total against 3,000. The numbers don't work. Unless we use the gates, Dr. Yunji Choi said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. The scientist looked even more exhausted than usual. Chief Engineer Hyunwoo Lee stood beside her, his face grim. The original gate builders left behind something I haven't told anyone about, Yunji continued. A master control node. One device that can command every gate in the galaxy, including the ancient gates the Council uses for their entire economy and military. If we activate it, we can shut down every Council gate simultaneously. Their fleet would be stranded wherever they are. Their economy would collapse overnight. She paused. But there's a cost. At what cost? Yuna asked. There's a 30% chance the activation creates cascading space-time failures. Multiple sectors of space could become unstable. Billions of beings could die. And it might shut down our gates too. Everyone starts from scratch. The room went silent. Ambassador Deho Park spoke first. We've spent these months telling the galaxy we're better than the Council, that we value life and freedom over power. If we use this weapon, we become exactly what they fear. Director Bowman Ahn nodded in agreement. We'd be trading our principles for survival. What would we become? We'd become alive, Admiral Kang said harshly. If we don't use it, the Council destroys Earth and everyone who joined us. They'll make examples of entire species. The oppression will be worse than before. The argument continued for hours. Species representatives argued both sides. Some wanted to use any weapon to survive. Others refused to sacrifice billions to save themselves. Captain Yuna Kim listened to all of them. Finally, she stood. There has to be another way. We're humans. We don't give up, we adapt. We find solutions that shouldn't exist. Strategic Commander Hana Song pulled up tactical displays. Then we need to think different. Not fight their fleet. Not destroy their gates. Something else entirely. For the next 72 hours, the greatest minds in the Alliance worked on a plan. Human ingenuity combined with alien perspectives. Scientists and soldiers together. They built a strategy that was insane and brilliant. When they presented it to Admiral Kang, the old warrior laughed. This is either the stupidest idea I've ever heard or pure genius. Probably both, Hana Song admitted. But it's better than genocide. The Council fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system exactly when intelligence predicted. 3,000 warships in perfect formation. War Marshal Krovik stood on his flagship's bridge, confident in his overwhelming force. Send the message, he ordered. Surrender within 1 hour or we glass every human world. Humanity's response confused him. Every gate in the human network activated simultaneously, creating a display of light and folded space visible from hundreds of worlds. It was beautiful and terrifying. A demonstration of power, but they didn't attack. They just waited. They're trying to intimidate us, Krovik decided. It won't work. All ships advance and prepare to fire. Then something unexpected happened. 15 Council member species broadcast a message on all frequencies. We will not participate in genocide. Their ships, part of the Council fleet, powered down weapons and drifted aside. They didn't join humanity. They simply refused to fight. Among those ships was Counselor Isathis, the serpentine diplomat who had always played all sides. The counselor contacted Ambassador Deho directly. You were right, human. The Council's age is ending. Many of us have waited for someone brave enough to stand against them. You gave us that courage. Suddenly, War Marshal Krovik's 3,000 ships became 2,000. Still overwhelming numbers, but the confidence was gone. Some Council species were choosing peace. The galaxy was watching. Traitors! Krovik roared. All loyal ships attack immediately. The battle began. Captain Yuna Kim commanded the frontline defense, her tactical skills keeping human losses minimal. The gate network didn't trap the Council fleet this time. Instead, it created channels of altered space that human ships could use to move rapidly across the battlefield. Wing. Commander Dongyun Park led a squadron of experimental fighters in a desperate attack on the Council flagship. His mission was to disable its shields using a risky gate-assisted maneuver. He succeeded, but his ship was destroyed in the explosion. 23 other pilots died with him. The battle raged for 18 brutal hours. Humanity lost 200 ships. Families across Earth and the colonies mourned their dead, but the Council lost 600 vessels. The gate network gave humanity advantages that numbers couldn't overcome. Then Dr. Yoonji Choi detected something terrible. Deep within the Council fleet, a specialized ship was charging a weapon. A planet killer. If it fired, Earth would be destroyed completely. How long until it fires? Admiral Kang demanded 15 minutes. Maybe less. Yuna Kim looked at the Admiral. They both knew what this meant. To stop that weapon, they needed to activate the Master Control Node. Risk billions to save Earth. Admiral Kang reached for the activation switch. His hand trembled. Wait. Agent Sora Nam's voice came over the communication channel. My people are on that ship. Give me 15 minutes. Sora, that's not enough time to... Give me 15 minutes, Sora repeated. And the channel went dead. Captain Yuna Kim made a decision. All ships concentrated assault on the Council Center formation. We're going after that planet killer. That's suicide, Tactical Officer Minji Kwan said. Then we die protecting Earth. Better than living as cowards. Follow me. Yuna led 30 ships straight into the heart of the Council fleet. The Council focused all their firepower on her formation. Ships exploded around her. Her own vessel, the Indomitable, took hit after hit. Shields failed. Hull breached. Life support failing. But they bought time. Aboard the planet killer ship, Agent Sora and her team of infiltrators fought through the corridors. They had been undercover for months, waiting for exactly this moment. Now they used every trick, every weapon, every second. Sora reached the weapons control room with 30 seconds to spare. The council officers inside fought back, but she had trained for this her entire life. She killed the last guard and accessed the weapons controls. "I can't shut it down," she reported over her communicator, "but I can overload it." "That will destroy the entire ship and everything near it," someone responded. "I know." Sora's hands moved across the controls, entering override codes. "Tell my family I'm proud of what we built." The weapon overloaded. The planet killer ship exploded with the force of a small star, taking 300 council ships with it. The explosion was so massive it created a temporary tear in space itself. When the light faded, the council fleet was in ruins. War Marshal Krovik's flagship drifted, powerless. Around him, the remains of his armada burned. He had started with 3,000 ships. Now he had less than 1,200, and most of those were damaged. Across the galaxy, Prime Arbitrator Velthun watched the battle feed. The crystalline being's light pulsed with something it had never felt before: despair. The Council had thrown everything at humanity and failed. Velthun made the hardest decision of its 4,000-year life. "Ceasefire. All Council forces withdraw immediately." The galaxy held its breath as the Council's surviving ships retreated. It was over. Humanity had won, but the cost was terrible. 300 human ships destroyed, thousands of lives lost. Agent Sora and Wing Commander Dongyun Park and so many others would never come home. Captain Yuna Kim, rescued from her dying ship, stood on the bridge of another vessel and watched the Council fleet jump to hyperspace. They were running. The mighty Council was running from humanity. "We won," Tactical Officer Minji Kwan said quietly. "Yes," Yuna replied, "but let's make sure we remember what it cost." 6 months after the battle, the galaxy was unrecognizable. The Council still existed, but it was no longer the absolute authority it had been for thousands of years. The Free Systems Alliance had grown to include 87 species. More applied every week. Captain Yuna Kim, now promoted to Admiral, stood at the memorial wall on Earth. The wall stretched for nearly a kilometer, covered with names. Every human who had died defending freedom. Agent Sora, Wing Commander Dongyun Park, Pilot Lieutenant Ji-won Ha, 3,417 names total. "They saved us," Ambassador Daeho Park said, standing beside her. "They saved everyone." Yuna touched Sora's name gently. "They showed the galaxy that humanity doesn't back down. Not when it matters." Daeho looked tired but content. "The Council wants to negotiate." Prime Arbitrator Velthun personally requested a meeting. What do they want? What they should have offered from the beginning. Full recognition of the Alliance, equal standing with the Council, access to all shared technologies and trade routes. Daeho smiled. "Everything we fought for." The meeting took place on a neutral station newly built by the Alliance. It was smaller than the Council's massive station, but more welcoming. Bright instead of dark, open instead of imposing, Prime Arbitrator Velthun arrived with a small delegation. The crystalline being looked different somehow. Smaller, less certain. War Marshal Krovik was not present. He had been removed from his position after the defeat. Velthun stood before Ambassador Daeho, Admiral Yuna Kim, and representatives from the Alliance. For a long moment, the ancient being said nothing. Then its crystalline form pulsed with soft blue light. "We were wrong about your species," Velthun said quietly. "We saw you as children because you are young. But children and fools are not the same. You taught us that." Daeho nodded respectfully. "And we learned that age doesn't guarantee wisdom. But together maybe we can find it." The Council offers formal recognition of the Free Systems Alliance. We propose a new treaty, the Council and the Alliance as separate but equal organizations. Species can choose which to join or both. Trade and technology sharing between us. No more hierarchy. No more forced obedience. It was everything humanity had wanted. Ambassador Daeho looked at the other Alliance representatives. The Kelzaran ambassador nodded. So did representatives from a dozen other species. "We accept," Daeho said, "but with one condition. The Council must reform. No more treating younger species as inferior. No more restricting technology based on age rather than merit. If you want peace with the Alliance, you have to change." Velthun was quiet for a long time. Change was hard for beings who had lived thousands of years. But the alternative was continued conflict. Slowly, the crystalline being pulsed agreement. The Council will reform. You have our word. Treaties were signed. Borders were established. The galaxy entered a new era. Dr. Yoonji Choi stood in her laboratory, which was now an international research center. Scientists from 40 different species worked together, sharing knowledge freely. Chief Engineer Hyunwoo Lee coordinated gate construction projects across 100 worlds. We could have destroyed everything, Hyunwoo said, looking at the master control node they had never used. We had the power, Yoonji nodded. But we didn't. That's what makes us different. Not our technology, not our tactics, our restraint, our choice to find a better way even when we could have taken the easy, violent path. Do you think it will last? The peace? I don't know, Yoonji admitted. But we gave it a chance. That's more than most species would have done. The gate network continued to expand. The Alliance built new gates at an incredible pace, connecting worlds that had never been able to communicate before. Small species that the Council had ignored suddenly had voices. Isolated colonies could trade and share culture. Director Bowman An oversaw the economic integration. The Alliance's economy grew rapidly, fueled by free trade and shared technology. Even some Council species started using Alliance gates because they were more efficient. Captain Taewoo Shin, now an ambassador himself, traveled to former Council worlds and helped them transition to Alliance membership. Most joined willingly, eager for the equality and respect they had never received from the Council. Fleet Admiral Ji-hoon Kang retired to a quiet home in Korea. The old warrior had earned his rest. His replacement, Admiral Yoona Kim, continued building the Alliance fleet. Not for conquest, for protection, to make sure no species would ever be threatened the way Earth had been. On Earth, people returned to normal life. Children went to school. Workers went to jobs. But everyone knew the galaxy had changed. Humanity was no longer the weak newcomer. They were leaders in a new kind of civilization. Counselor Isathis visited Earth personally, touring the cities and meeting with human leaders. The Serpentine diplomat had become a bridge between the Council and the Alliance. You surprised everyone, Isathis told Ambassador Daeho during a private dinner. Most species would have used the master control node. Destroyed the Council completely. Why didn't you? Daeho thought about the question. Because destroying the Council wouldn't have solved the real problem. The problem was the system, not the beings running it. We wanted to change the system, not just replace who was in charge. A mature answer, Isathis said. From a species the Council called children. Years passed. The Alliance and the Council learned to coexist. Sometimes they disagreed. Sometimes they cooperated. But they were equals now. No more hierarchy. No more forcing younger species to submit. In the Pacific Research Facility, now a galactic landmark, Dr. Yoonji Choi gave tours to students from across the galaxy. She showed them the gates, explained the science, and told them the story of how humanity had changed everything. The Council made a mistake, she would say. They thought we were weak because we were young. They thought we would accept whatever rules they imposed. But they forgot something important. Humans don't accept cages. We break them. 50 years after the battle, Senator Haru Kim stood before the Galactic Senate. The Senate was a new institution, replacing the old Council entirely. 300 species sat as equals, voting on laws that affected everyone. Haru was the grandson of Admiral Yoona Kim. He had grown up hearing stories of the war, of the sacrifices, of the day humanity said no to the most powerful organization in the galaxy. My grandmother once told me something, Haru said to the assembled delegates. She said humanity's greatest strength isn't our innovation or our stubbornness. It's our memory. We remember what it's like to be powerless. We remember what it's like to be dismissed. And we swore we'd never let that happen to others. He gestured around the hall. This is her legacy. This Senate where every species has an equal voice, where no one is too young or too old to matter, where your worth is determined by your ideas, not your age or your power. The Council ruled against Earth. They thought that vote would keep us in our place. Instead, it freed the galaxy. Prime Arbitrator Velthun, now simply Counselor Velthun, sat in the audience. The crystalline being was ancient, but it had learned and grown. It raised one appendage in agreement with Haru's words. Outside the Senate building, Ships equipped with gates moved through space. Human ships, alien ships, and collaborative designs. The galaxy was connected in ways it had never been before. In a small park on Earth, a memorial stood. It showed Agent Sora Nam, Wing Commander Dongyun Park, and Pilot Lieutenant Jiwon Ha, 3 among thousands who had died. The inscription read, "They fought so that no one would ever have to fight alone again." Dr. Yoonji Choi, now old and gray, visited the memorial every year. Chief Engineer Hyunwoo Lee, equally old, walked with her. They remembered the desperate days, the impossible odds, the moment when humanity decided that freedom was worth any price. "Do you think they knew?" Hyunwoo asked. "The ones who died." "Do you think they knew we would win?" Yoonji smiled. "They knew something better. They knew that even if we lost, we would lose on our feet, not on our knees. That's what made us human. That's what changed everything." The sun set over Earth, the same sun that had shone on caves and early cities, on ships crossing oceans and ships crossing space. Humanity had come so far, and they had done it while holding on to the one thing that mattered most, the belief that everyone deserves to be free. The Council had ruled against Earth, thinking it would keep them in control. That vote became their final mistake. Because humanity didn't just fight for Earth, they fought for a principle that every being in the galaxy understood. No one should be caged for being young. No one should be controlled for being different. No one should surrender their freedom to those who claim to know better. The galaxy learned that lesson, and it learned it from the species everyone thought was too young to matter. 50 years later, 100 years later, 1,000 years later, beings across the galaxy would remember. They would tell their children about the day humanity said no, about the war that ended hierarchy, about the moment when the galaxy learned that power comes not from age or weapons, but from the courage to stand up and say, "We are free, and we will remain free." The Council's vote against Earth became the vote that freed everyone, and that made all the difference.